Micro here, doing our first Classy Nerds movie review today. It's really exciting because we have nothing but good things to say about this movie we just saw. I should probably introduce my guest that you see right here. This is my fellow Classy Nerds member, Quentin. And
Hi, how are you guys?
Say hello, Quentin.
Hello, how are you? I also help Manda moderate the Classy Nerds page. It's mostly her. I just help with a lot of the little small things. But we saw a great movie and we had to do a video recording for you guys on this one today because it's the best.
Definitely. Why don't you tell them what movie we saw?
We saw, the best way to describe it is not a lot of people know about this story. It's the story of Zola. Zola is a stripper from Detroit who went on this wild excursion with this woman that she barely knew to Tampa to go to work at a strip club. And she made 148 tweets about it. And it became one of the most popular Twitter threads in 2015 ever. And I think it went so viral that it got picked up by directors and they made a movie out of it. So we had to see the movie. And it is one of the most darkly hysterical films I think we've ever watched. Like, we've watched a lot of dark hysterical films. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, on Classy Nerds, we post about what you'd say mostly. We post about a bunch of vulgar movies, but I wouldn't say that touches the peak of some of the vulgar movies we've watched. But this goes right in there because there's a lot of controversial stuff that happens.
Yeah, definitely. So, we saw Zola a couple of nights ago, and the movie was amazing.
Yeah.
I can't say anything but positive things about the company A24. They just keep putting out banger after banger after banger of a movies, and Zola is another one of those movies, and it is phenomenal from start to finish. And you guys have already read my review basically on how I feel about the film, but I just wanted to get Quentin on here because he also saw it with me, and I thought it'd be interesting to get another point of view of this movie. So Quentin, tell us what you thought about Zola.
My favorite thing, to touch back on the A24 thing, like, if this movie had been made with any other studio, I don't think it would have been as good. Like, 100%. Like, A24 picked it up. And I just was like, this is going to be amazing. I knew exactly what was going to happen. The soundtrack's going to be amazing. The costuming is going to be amazing. They're going to use aesthetics that no other film is going to use. So if this had been picked up by like any other big motion picture company, I don't think it would have been good. Like, I think it would have just been some weird, odd stripper movie where they just tried to up the ante. But A24 did that, but they did it in their own aesthetics. So for me, like, it was all about, like, they portrayed every character from their region like the best. That was my main takeaway. I enjoy that more than anything in studios now, because back in the era of like old films, we used to have moments where a movie would be filmed somewhere, like would be staged somewhere, but it's not really filmed in that place. Whereas you watch this movie and you clearly watch some Detroit people leave to Tampa, and you can tell they filmed part of it in Tampa. And they costume everyone. And us living in South Florida, we know what Tampa people look like. So it just kind of came across as funny to me, because every time they interacted with someone from Tampa or went to a hotel, I would just bust out laughing, because it was exactly that. Even when it goes to a part where Buddy's running across the street and there's a Publix in the background, and I lost my mind. It was like the funniest thing I'd ever seen.
Definitely. No lie, living in Florida, definitely watching some of those scenes were just extra hilarious to me, because it's just like, I know that neighborhood. That neighborhood is so gross.
Like, there are so many parts where you're like, no, as it's some South Florida, like they go to like the hotel they stay at in the beginning is just like so commonplace for grody hotels. And it was just like, oh my God, like, how much of the movie do you want to give away? Like, do we just want to touch on it a little bit, or how much?
We don't want to spoil anything,
Okay.
so we'll just touch base on it and tell everybody how good it was.
Yeah, like, there are some parts that are, all right, so the one thing that me and Amanda are going to bring up, and it's going to sound disgusting, there are things in this movie that are going to be gross, but you're going to understand why you're paying attention to that. And it's going to be like, ew, why did they show that? And then the next scene something will happen and you'll go, oh, that's why they showed that. And it's super darkly funny. Like, don't get me wrong, me and Amanda have some really dark humor, so don't take our word that everything's gonna be funny. Sometimes it might not be funny to y'all, but there's a whole bathroom scene, I'm not gonna give it away, where you're gonna be like, ew, why did they shoot this from this angle? I didn't need to see this. And then you're like, oh,
Very
that's why they shot it
intricate.
like
I would say very intricate
that.
detail.
Very intricate detail. Especially if you know strip club culture, as well as, like, I work in nightlife. Like, outside of doing Classy Nerds with Amanda, I work nightlife. I work with go-go dancers. I work with club kids. I've seen some wild stuff. And stuff like that is, like, stuff I paid attention to in this movie. And I was like, this is messy, 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 messy. And, like, that's what makes me love these movies. Is because A24 movies will pay attention to the lighting. They'll pay attention to the audio. And, like, don't even get me started on the soundtrack. I'll leave that for later on. But, like, the way it's shot is so fun and so detailed with how they get everything done. And that's what makes it good, like, even with the grossest parts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite character in
You know
Zola?
who my favorite character is, the
I
worst
know the
character.
answer to this already, but I want everyone else to know.
So my favorite character in the movie is, I'm gonna call him the antagonist because that's who he is. So the storyline is that Zola goes on a journey with this woman to go strip, and you come to find out that the woman, the friend of the girl she's going with, is actually her pimp. And he is this wild African dude. I forget the actor's name. I'm about to look him up. He's this wild African dude, and all he does is just it's messed up because he's so evil of a person, but he's so about it, and so, like, even when the girls are in trouble, like, he's there. Like, he had their back the entirety of the movie, even though he was awful and treating them terribly. Like, any danger they were in, he was right there, no hesitation, no, like calm, the entire, like, he is so aggressively mean, but everything he did was so goddamn funny. And I was like, this is a awful character, and I shouldn't be laughing at some of the things he's doing. But between the accent and the character flaws and how he interacted with everything, it was some of the funniest stuff in the moment. What was your favorite character? Allow me to look up what this actor's name is.
My favorite character, I'm the antagonist. He's pretty up there with me. I want to say Zola is my favorite character for other reasons that I'll probably touch on a little bit more down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, along with the antagonist, the antagonist, Zola was my favorite character, just because and it necessarily wasn't her actions in the movie, it was her, I don't know, her braveness to tell the story, because I know some of the story is exaggerated, but the story is what it is. I mean, it is stripper turned pimping and trapping, and she was brave enough to tell that story. So for me, Zola is my favorite character because the whole movie she's like putting on this brave front on how to get home, and she's trying to not to let anyone see her sweat, and she keeps her composure the whole movie even though everything is bananas. And at the end of the day, she was like, you know what, people need to know what happened to me. I don't care what happens after the end of the day. If this antagonist comes for me or whatever, I don't care, but people need to know this story about me. And that I really respected, and made her personally my favorite character in the movie. Did you have a favorite moment?
Okay, we'll touch on the favorite moment because I feel like we both have almost the same favorite moment. So the actor is Coleman Domingo. I forget what movies I've also seen him in. He has a voiceover in one of my favorite Denzel Curry tracks. That's how I recognized his voice so much. But he plays the role. The character's name is X, based off of the real person whose name is Z. I did a lot of research afterwards. I think, like, the main reason why Zola wasn't afraid to tell this story is, I think, because, like, in real life, like the real Z got arrested, and I think that's why
Mhm.
she was able to tell the story.
Yeah.
And what makes her so powerful with telling the story is that like these are things like other strippers and sex workers need to know, is like you can't trust everyone in that industry. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a very scary thing to just trust anyone who's a sex worker in that industry. Like even in today's day and age, like I have friends that do OnlyFans and they can't trust other OnlyFans workers because they do their stuff differently, and it's very suspect on how they do that. You know, so I feel like as a sex worker, this is a movie that people should watch because it is very eye opening to people you can interact with in the industry. What made Zola's story so like powerful for me is like she took it in such stride and people wanted to tell her tale and people held her in respect. Sorry, explaining this tale to people and explaining how detailed and like it's a raw story. Like that's what makes this tale so deep. Like it wasn't some, oh, I got caught up in this. Like no, she as herself told this awful harrowing story as herself with all of the messy goofy characteristic details. And as much as this is a dark and harrowing story, like there is a element of humor to how messy it is. If you know, if you're just like it, that's what makes it so good. So to go on my favorite scene or scenes, we have a mutual scene where there's a gunfight in the middle of the movie. I'm not necessarily going to go into the details of how we get to this gunfight, but again, X, played by Coleman Domingo, handles this scene so awfully, but without a sweat. Like everything that happens in this room with this gunfight, you think is going to be scary, and you're like, oh no, the jig is up. They're about to go through this. No, like no. X had a whole plan, knew what he had to do, and knew he was the dude in the room to do it. And it's such a messy scene. It is dark. It is a very dark turn partway in, but he takes over. And then the other funniest scene, this might be a bit of a spoiler, is so X has I want to assume it's his real girlfriend, but the term we're going to use, and pardon my language, the term we're going to use is his bottom bitch. And she is this, I looked her up, she is this Instagram model. She doesn't have a lot of lines in the movie for the obvious reason. I'm not going to give that away because that's a plot point. But she's so cold. Like she's got a gun too. She keeps everyone in line. And like every scene with her is also hilarious. Like me and Amanda have been firing lines from every interaction with them back and forth at each other for days,
It's such a
laughing
quotable movie.
hysterically. Huh?
It's such a quotable movie.
It's such a quotable movie. Like it is such a hysterically quotable movie.
Hey guys, Manda Micro here. Just wanted to let you know our YouTube video of the Zola review may have run a little bit too long for YouTube's preference, so we did have to break it up into 2 parts. You can find the second part of our conversation linked down below or on the channel if you feel like clicking around. So we look forward to having that conversation about the Zola movie with you, and we'll see you soon. Bye!